stagnant water, algae that will go away as soon as the water moves, and who cares, because when it hits salt water, it's going to die. One of the first things the governor did to us, to you, was take funding away from cancer cluster research. Children, you see me at the ERC, I'm all about saving the water, making it clean for our kids. We've got a cancer cluster here, nobody wants to talk about it. The state of Florida just throws a blind eye to the cyanobacteria. You might be doing gajillions of dollars worth of work in the background, but you're not telling us. So as far as we're concerned, I live in the aerosol shadow of the middle of the southeast breeze. Even if it's not there at levels we can see, my grandchildren are breathing. I live 1 block away and 2 blocks away from the 2 places that it packed in as it moved up the shore and packed in. It was really, really disgusting. How can we learn more about this cancer cluster? Is there something that you could send us, or you could hook us up with a link? This is our kids, and I know you care too. And on these guys that are going to fix the algae after the fact, everybody in this room knows that the solution is to make our nutrient protections more stringent across the board and then enforce it. And I know that's another thing you guys have not been able to do the last 8 years. Every year it's declined, the enforcement and stuff. I sincerely hope that there's an administration change that gives you guys back your teeth so that you can really come out here and protect our kids again. Thank you very much for coming.
To clarify here, 2 things. One is the concern about coordinating, get the Department of Health to pay attention, because it is a water quality issue, but it's a Department of Health issue too.
Right.
For the liver cancer thing. And then also, the question was the response and the time for that. So what?
Yeah, and like you said, Mark, yeah, I mean, I can get you in touch with, and you probably already have, so I don't know if this is, how helpful this is going to be. But, the state toxicologist, Dr. Kendra Goff, up in Tallahassee, I can get you her contact information and get you all in
Thank
touch
you
with
very
her. So, certainly can help out.
Jim, and then we'll go to.
Tom, thanks for being here. The health of the lagoon is in decline. It's probably critical right now. It may be lost. Part of that is, this delicate balance of inputs, the nutrients that we're trying to get our arms around. But some of them are natural. Some of them are levels of salinity that we don't have good targets for. And it's bound to change throughout the estuaries, depending on the geography of the estuary. What about creating more monitoring to look at some of those biological indicators? Seagrass is one of them. But when we're in a crisis and we're in decline, it doesn't feel as though we're getting a lot more help from the DEP.
I would have to talk with you specifically of where you think that there is gaps, on those.
Well, monitoring throughout the lagoon is failing. South Florida Water Management in particular has lost 11 stations. And that's just in the lagoon.
Right.
There's many more lost than there have been gained in the last 10 years. And so it's a little bit difficult to hear this increased effort on monitoring when I don't see it. I see the opposite.
And that's from the fact that some of those stations have been going away from discontinued, that have historically been there.
Yeah. And so
had
we
a
don't
presentation
have.
last month about that from
Dr.
Marcy,
Sosa.
doctors.
Right.
And so, we don't have the data. We can't say that we're improving or we're failing, but our eyes and our noses tell us we're in collapse.
Right.
And we're not getting the state support that I think that we're being told that we're getting.
Good. This lady and then, okay.
Hi, my name's Tiffany. I'm actually a public health professional, and I've been doing
check the
research
microphone.
on this specific strain of cyanobacteria for a few years.
Could you speak up?
You gotta please stand up.
Maybe
Sorry,
You gotta speak up and
Great.
everybody hear you.
So I'm Tiffany
I'll repeat that.
Gracie. I'm a public health professional. I've been doing research. Just a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
There we go.
You gotta
Right
run.
there.
Thank you.
All right. So been doing research on this particular strain of cyanobacteria for the past couple of years, and I think it's really notable when we look at trends to consider that the WHO threshold is 10 parts per billion, and a couple of years ago in the Indian River Lagoon, we were looking at 33,000 parts per billion. So that's one thing to consider, the severity. The other thing is looking at worldwide trends. A couple of studies have been done to test well water. Are there any efforts that are going into testing local wells, especially on Indian River Drive where people can be impacted?
That's a
You know?
good question, yes. Yep, thank you. Testing wells for.
Thanks. Yeah, so the question was, is there any testing of private wells from microsystems, right?
Yeah, because it's been done worldwide, and they're, the exact same strain has been tested elsewhere in the world, and they found it in well water.
Right.
Even when you can't visually see the water.
Right.
Yeah, so so I don't know, I don't have the answer to that. I would have to talk with Department of Health. They are in charge of private drinking wells. I can tell you for the the drinking water facilities on Lake Okeechobee and also on the Caloosahatchee that they have been testing in those areas. I don't believe we saw any on any of the intake that was coming, that they use for those, but that's very different than what you're talking about of those private wells that are, right there. Now, and this really is an outreach thing. Any citizen can go out and contact the Department of Health, local health department, and ask to have their well.
So I actually did that with our local health department. They have no idea what the tests are. I know of a couple of labs that will do it privately. It's about $500 a pop, but that's really cost prohibitive when we think of what the citizens.
Right. If the health department's going out there, my lab, the one that I run, we do microsystems. And we do the analysis for the health department. So when they're coming out, so it shouldn't be any different than when they're sending it to DEP lab, for
But
that.
I'm saying that our local health department, when I called them, they
They
had no
said,
idea what.
right, so that information just hasn't been,
Yeah, it needs better education.
that hasn't been put there,
So if we can work on that, that would be good to kind of get that approval. Thank you, Jim. Taking
That's
a
good.
vote on that. We have
Excuse
Kenny.
me. I didn't get your name.
Tiffany Parisi.
Thank you.
Kenny, and then this lady over here, thanks.
Gigi Dubay.
Oh,
I was a
Gigi,
former.
Kenny was first, and then if you would.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We need the
Oh, no, I'm
microphone.
sorry. Just trying to get a little.
I got that the first time. Gigi Dubay, I'm a former employee of Clean Water Act. Where's our went away a long time ago. And I'm questioning, and strongly support the DEP's employment of monitoring and not only monitoring, but coming up with nutrient levels. I feel that should be one of their priorities for clean water. But I also was looking at the map of the flows. And I know one of the things that a lot of people are talking about today is storing contaminated water in underground facilities. And I'm wondering where the DEP is going with that. Are they in support of it? Those areas, what kind of studies are they using?
Well, we haven't been,
Can you repeat the question?
oh, sure, so the question was about basically aquifer storage and recovery. Taking waters, putting them down in the aquifer, and then pulling it back out at a later time. And so that has been part of the comprehensive Everglades, plan for many years on a very small, I would say, experimental level of seeing, because being able to do that, you can't do it everywhere. And so it is not the answer in many, many places just because of the way the geology is. So I know that, South Florida Water Management District has been looking, and doing some tests in areas, about where that's a possibility. I haven't seen any results from those testing yet, so.
It sounds to me like DEP isn't
think what I would say is that, it's a potential part of the solution. How big of a part, is still well within question, certainly questions that we have from DEP. Where the best places are to do it, how much, those,
And
certainly.
Tom, if I can interject before we go to Kenny and others,
Sure.
on the ASR, aquifer storage recovery, I know the district has been, following up on this comprehensive Everglades plan projects,
Right.
pilot program, so is the Corps of Engineers. But how does DEP get involved when we're talking about wells, we're talking about injection, we're talking about injection of water that may be polluted, and how that pollution, water going in the aquifer may affect drinking water, which the department is in charge of.
Right,
So
so-
how do you all?
Right, so there are requirements for what that water would mean to be injected.
Right.
And so there are levels that we're looking for. And depending on where it's gonna go, what aquifer they're gonna put it in, it has to meet various levels, including, bacteria. So, drinking water sort of, effluents to be able to put those, if there's gonna be some exchange in, in those aquifers.
That's what I wanted to
So-
clarify, is
Yeah.
that you need to be involved in that,
And we are, yes, that
so
is
you're
correct.
monitoring,
It's-
you're require them to meet certain standards,
Correct. There's a permitting group that they have to go through when they do that permit. It's called UIC, Underground Injection Control. And so there's specific water quality components that they have to meet to get that permit to be able to do that. So,
Kenny, and then we'll maybe take a few more questions.
Just real quick, thank you for coming, Tom.
Speak up.
Can you use the microphone?
Appreciate you coming.
Louder.
Sorry, Kenny Hinkle. Thank you for coming, Tom. We appreciate you coming here and speak to us today. You mentioned possibly the DEP funding cleaning the algae before it gets here. The problem is, we don't need one drop of Lake Okeechobee water in our estuary, not one drop, 0. C-44 is meant to clean up, C-44 reservoir is meant to clean up local runoff, along with the Calkins Water Farm. We have to stop the Lake Okeechobee discharge, period. DEP needs to understand that.
Back in the back, Alex, and then we'll go to this.
There was some good reporting by the TC Palm on the way biosolids are being mismanaged and spread kind of haphazardly with no monitoring, no regulation. Hard rain comes, they wash right into our waters and completely foul up everything. What is DEP doing to get that under control? Because we talk about all these investments for fixing things. That's not an investment of money, that's a free solution. We just have to do a better job managing it. What's DEP doing?
yeah, so I think that's the question. We've heard, that- so the question was on biosolids, and there's been reports that facilities haven't been operating and maintaining within the confines of what they're supposed to do, right? I mean, that basically they have a permit that gets reviewed, and we tell them, okay, they agree that this is how they're gonna handle things. And so we've heard those, those reports of people are not operating or maintaining these various facilities. We have sent out inspectors to, I believe, all, but it's not my group, so when I say all, if there's a few that we haven't, I apologize. But I know that the agency is acting on that from what we've heard. We are sending out inspectors, we are doing enforcement. We are going out and getting those inspections to see whether they're being operated correctly or not. And if not, then we will move forward with, fines and such to clean it up. So.
Good question. We'll maybe take two more, and then he'll be around. Please go ahead, Paul, and then.
Yeah, following up on the biosolids, the problem that we see is that we're not talking, a lot of these are secondary treatment. They need to be tertiary treatment, actually. And what's happening is the biosolids are going out into the agricultural areas. And during runoff, we have the data that supports that a lot of the nutrients coming back into our estuaries are coming from the agricultural area because they've been spreading as fertilizer. So you can criticize about the septic systems, but that's probably less than 2% of the problem based on some of the data that we see. And that we should be concentrating on the fact that what are we gonna do with all the biosolids that are being spread in the agricultural areas, especially in view of the fact that 4,000 people per week are moving into Florida. This is only going to be a continuing problem that will worsen, and we don't seem to hear a lot of addressments to that issue. Could you comment on that, please?
Sure, so the question was on, basically, these biosolids are being spread on these, these properties, and you're talking specifically about permitted biosolids, or are you talking about, double A, which becomes fertilizer? I guess, I was assuming you're talking specifically about Class B biosolids.
I'm talking about, yes, it's free, almost free fertilizers for agricultural community. We tend to blame the agricultural community, but actually the problem, we've identified the enemy, it's us. We're not dealing with the biosolids issue coming out of the waste treatment in a very positive way.
Right.
Turning in too much.
Right, and so the question is, and Mark, you hit it exactly. So it gets back to the other gentleman's question. Are they applying and spreading the way that it should be? Right? I mean, we have, when we review permits, and I've sat with our biosolids folks to go through this, I mean, we're looking to see what's going to come off of those lands, what will happen. Now, there is a concern that, all right, are folks actually operating or maintaining their property as they say they are? And that is certainly something, and I started with the Springs, example yesterday, or that I was at yesterday, really, because we're learning quite a bit about the impacts to our surface water that are applicable in our coastal areas. I mean, we're on these sandy soils, we're on these sand dunes. Things travel in the very superficial, and get off to those systems. We also, in those springs areas, when we've looked at a number of these biosolid sites and the septic sites, we've seen that there could be improvements, certainly, in how folks are operating those systems. And as we've been crafting our basin management action plans in those areas, we've been putting a focus on that. And so that is something that we've learned over the last few years. That is something that we are carrying over into our other VMAP areas, especially these coastal areas. And so that's, getting out there, making sure that they're doing what they say they are doing, that what they describe as their facility, are they actually putting additional fertilizer on top of this biosolids, in these areas? Have they saturated the soil, with phosphorus? So now, at one point it was fine, but now it's all, running off just because they've operated it for so long, or they put too much on the land and oversaturated. Those are the types of questions that we certainly are focused on.
So I appreciate that. Jackie, and then we're gonna wrap up, but we'll make his information a bit. Go
Well,
ahead, Jackie.
I'm sitting here getting angry, and nothing personal, but when I come to meetings like this, I wanna know now, when I go out of this room, what can I do? And I know in my heart of hearts, we have the experts here. You can hear how bright these people are. They know a whole lot more than I do. But what can we do now? I know in my heart of hearts that had we not had those successful protests at the locks and at the beaches years ago, we never would have gotten SB 10, ever. And so, do you suggest to us that we start doing this again, to get DEP moving? Because we can do that easily.
Well,
So the question is,
Right.
mobilize protest, in order to get DEP.
I mean, how you get the message out, she's smiling back there, look at her. She's like, aha, I got him.
Hope so.
No, I mean, the whole, me standing up here, talking about, this is what we need to hear, honestly. It's good to be able to hear and work with communities about solutions. That's the way that the water is gonna be cleaned up, is to be able to work together to come up with, all right, what is it that we have to do in these areas? And that's really been my focus when I talk about restoration. And it's really, all right, we know that there's a problem, what is it? What are the actions that, you know, that we need to do locally, the projects to get in place? And I'll tell you that, you know, I'm gonna be careful because I'm gonna say something and you're not gonna like it, but, you know, as projects come online, you know, as we've seen, DEP has been there to, you know, with funding, to try and get those projects, get those ideas into the ground. And, you know, if there are examples that you say, okay, well, no, we had this project, but DEP didn't come forward, or the state didn't come forward with the funding, I certainly would like to know about those. But, I mean, we certainly want to be partners. We certainly want to hear what the projects are. We want to do, you know, our part to be able to get those projects in place. The hardest part about my job is, you know, those projects really have to come, you know, from other groups, you know, and this is the part that folks don't like. I don't have, you know, DEP is not like the water management districts or, you know, other areas. You know, we don't have engineers that are thinking up projects and going forward with those. So what we try and do is identify things, look at what the projects are, work with water management districts, work with local governments to be able to get those projects, you know, into the ground. So, you know, part of that is telling us what you think and telling
Well,
us where you think those
I
projects.
think you've heard a lot of good things today from our people.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to go further with it, and maybe you could urge South Florida Water Management District to be more responsive.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Alex, I'm gonna forgo you because George has one and we're gonna.
I just want to add one thing in with real quick what Mr. Frick's talking about too, is that DEP didn't control the funding for at least our particular ordinance monitoring. That's a legislative issue. They've been administering it, and we did not get our funding canceled. We got it reduced out of the legislature. There's a $250,000 effort that still goes on as recurring funding. It's $250,000. It was a lot higher. It reduced us down to 10 stations. But I just wanted to clarify that so that everybody in this room understands that elections are important. Okay? Because that was not in their budget. That is a legislative item that was moved on and that they administer. So DEP didn't cut our funding. The legislature cut our funding. And so it goes back to elected officials. And as to the other monitoring, I would strongly suggest that the 8 or 9 or 10 or however many stations that have been reduced from the water management districts, I know that DEP actually can control the water management districts. Nobody likes to admit that, but legislatively, it is DEP's authority to oversee that. And we all know that. This so we need more water quality stations monitoring. They've got the money. They're a taxable organization. And those stations need to be back online. And that's not an Orca station where I'm just talking the hand monitoring that was being done, a single sampling. Those
Right,
are
I got it.
that's baseline information that is missing, and I don't see how we can possibly manage this system effectively without it.
I mean, I think, Tom, we want to have back to local representation from DEP. In the past, if you all remember some of our meetings we've had, local office here, you know, right before Pierce Fort St. Lucie, they used to attend, their staff used to attend. We would badger them a lot about things and where this is going, that's going. And of course, at that level, at staff level, they would do what they could to communicate that up the line. But I would encourage that we get that back again. Also, we're gonna put, if Tom, if that's okay, your email contact and information. We're gonna post that. Your cell phone number.
Just want to make sure it wasn't my personal one.
So if you have other questions and concerns and thoughts that you think of right after this or during this, and you say, gosh, I want to do that, let's, if you wouldn't mind, we're gonna get that, contact info.
Can I say no?
No, yeah, if you want to.
Street address too?
Street address. But I do want to mention that,
No, that's fine, please, yes.
yeah, DEP did say, they did support SB 10, and they did support the post authorization change report with their letters. And I think we can encourage DEP, in fact, maybe we'll do a letter from us to say to DEP, monitoring is a key for our understanding of what's going on in the system. We've lost monitoring stations, and perhaps we can write a letter to secretary and say,
revising the targets.
yes, and we'll make sure we put something forward, so.
That would be good.
Thanks you again, Tom, thanks for coming. So we didn't let him quite off the hook. Drive back to Tallahassee thinking about all these things. We will be in communication, thank you.
I wrote them down, and honestly, send my email out. I'm happy if you guys have questions or, comments, please send them along. I do talk to the secretary, deputy secretaries, and the water management district, so, be
Good.
happy to
Great.
pass along those messages.
Thank you. All right, on the agenda, we've got a couple of quick things, River Kids, Speakers Bureau, and then right into government stuff, and we'll kind of wrap up with our reports. So, Rivers Kids, Nick Mader, do you have anything quick? Come on, Jackie. And then we've got the Speakers Bureau, Todd.
Actually,
You
can I
ready?
get Richard up there? I need to reshoot a photograph. I'm a professional that blew it, so we're just gonna do a quick check here, yes. I know before Nick gets questions.
Hurry up.
Oh, here we go. There we go. Thank you.
All right.
I'll take the check back.
Okay, quickly, I wanted to thank everybody that participated in our trash art event, which was April 7th. It was very successful. As Jackie will explain what she's going to do with the pictures of the trash art afterwards. But I wanted to thank Julia Kelly, who is the artist of the workbook. She was there kind of hosting it all. Veronica Dalton, a really great River Kid that was doing a project for her ID program in South Fork, and she really kicked butt, and she's doing wondrous things. So there she is with Jackie. And then I wanted to thank Marty Baum, who was there as kind of another host, and all the kids always flock to him, and he's wonderful. And I also wanted to thank Tyler Treadway, who originally started all this and helped us to raise money through TC Palm, and Jackie had spoken with him, and again, they donated money to us, so that was wonderful. Really quickly, in late June or early July, again, Will Glover is going to be doing Run the Toxic Trail from Lake Okeechobee to Stewart Beach, and the last 2 years he's done that. He's going to give proceeds to the River Kids, which is wonderful. So look out for that, and I'll keep you informed on that. And one other thing, I can't remember, but here's Jackie. Thank you very much for all your support, and thanks again, Harbor Ridge, for the donation. We really appreciate it.
So most of the art was like a mandala, if that's how you explain it. That's how Julia Kelly explained it. The kids would put their art on a poster board, and then at the end they would just put it in the recycling bin. But I had this one young lady, Kalena Booth from Hope Sound Bible School. She taped hers together, so we had an example to show you of how something looked. And the kids chose that they wanted to do this because there's so much trash on our beaches. It's a different message than what we've been sending before, but the River Kids continue to be speaking out, getting involved, and raising awareness because we believe kids should have a voice in the future of the rivers. Photographs were taken of all of the art. The photographs are made into postcards. The postcards are addressed to our local politicians, our state politicians, and our federal politicians. With a note asking to please consider, especially single-use plastics, which are like plastic bags. There's movements all over the country to stop these and be more like Europe, where you have to pay a dime, and then people have a tendency to bring their own bags. And I just want to say real quickly that I know some people would say, well, this isn't about the estuary and this isn't about Lake Okeechobee. The main thing is it's about the kids. They chose their topic, and every politician knows when they go to our website that we're about stopping the discharges from Lake Okeechobee. Thank you for all of the monetary support and personal support of the River Kids.
Jackie sparked my brain here, but I really think it would be wonderful if River Kids did spark a movement on the plastic bag issue. We've talked about this before, and I think Martin County is kind of ahead of the game environmentally.
He
And
just wrote an article too.
yes, I think we really need to spearhead that. That would be wonderful, and I hope everybody is supportive. And again, the proceeds to this, we did raise $85 at this event, and we would like to donate that to, it may sound not connected, but it really is. Again, the plastics in our ocean are a huge problem, as with our river. But the right whale, the southern right whale, is being entangled, and Jim Moyer knows a lot about this, but we're going to donate it to the Right Whale Festival, which is up in Jacksonville in November, and it's all about the plastics that actually entangle these right whales. There's only 300 and something left, and they actually have no calves that have been born so far this year, migrating south to calve. And Jim and I are involved in this issue. If anybody is interested, come talk to us. But thank you again.
We got Speakers Bureau, then we're gonna get into some reports real quick.
I'm Todd Weising. I'm the coordinator of the Rivers Coalition Speakers Bureau. The idea of the Speakers Bureau is to take our message out to the community. Our last event, we had Marty representing us with the Ballantrae Lady Anglers. They have a tremendous fundraiser. Is anyone here from Ballantrae Lady Anglers? We're going to connect up with them and bring them in for the next meeting. They're tremendously fun, tremendously generous, but they are a fun group of people, right, Marty?
Those girls know how to party.
Yeah. We're very, very fortunate to be their charity of choice. We have been for years. So let's talk about the Speakers Bureau. We have 100 people here, right? We have 100 organizations. We are the tip of the iceberg. How do we move our message to the next generation, to your friends, your community, your fishing club, your homeowners association, whenever you have a meeting? We just ask, invite us. We love to bring our message to the rest of the people. There are 300,000 people who are members of our organizations. We just want to take what we said today out to them. It's important that we spread it. Just see me. Love to come see you.
Great job, Tom. Thank you. So we've got a couple of reports from Martin County and the state agency reports from, I know Paul Gray's here, so we'll get some update on that. So Diane Hughes is with us from Martin County, so give it up for her for a few minutes.
Before I go into my presentation today, and the board asked me to introduce, Martin County leadership has made a decision on a new ecosystem restoration and management division director, and he's here visiting with us today. His first day is next Monday, John May. Thank you. Lake Okeechobee water conditions. The current lake elevation is 3.29 feet. About 30 days ago, 13.29, sorry. 13.29